Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Kitty and I'm an academic surgical trainee in the UK. For the last few months I've been building and transforming my Notion, mostly using databases to create an all-in-one workspace that helps me organise my life day to day as well as facilitating my learning. Today I'll be doing a tour of my Notion workspace looking specifically at my dashboard for my daily to-do list and journaling, my project checker, information sorting and knowledge databases. If you like what you see, I will also be releasing some step-by-step guides on how to build your own Notion organisation system in the future. Before we jump in, I just want to say a quick word about why you need to expend the effort in the first place to create a system like this. So it turns out that the human brain is pretty rubbish at multitasking and remembering lots of things to do. On average, it can only handle about 7 things at once. So right now, if you think about what you need to do for your work or your study or your course, and then think about what chores you have to do, any appointments that you need to attend or people that you need to meet, and then your hobbies and other long-term goals that you want to meet, I'm willing to bet that suddenly there seems like quite a lot of things to remember. An organisation system and to-do list like this is an excellent way to keep track of all these things and also make sure you don't forget it in your brain and save that brain power for something else more important. To be absolutely clear, there are lots of organisation systems out there available for this, and I would even say that some might do it better than Notion with inbuilt features such as Todoist and other apps designed for organisations and to-do lists alone. However, as someone who uses Notion for a lot of other things like my notes, reading lists, planning these YouTube videos, I wanted to have an organisation system all within one place for both ease of use and the ability to link all of these databases together. Notion also allows you to build everything from scratch and customize it however you want, which is a big plus for me. So that's why personally I'm choosing to do all this in Notion, although this video is not sponsored. So this is my dashboard page. This is what I open up every day in the morning to check what I've got to do in the day, and it's also pretty much the last thing I see usually at the end of the work day as well. Despite the page looking a bit busy here with sort of lots of things going on, lots of words, lots of tables, actually it's really not that complicated. There's only 3 elements that make up this page, which is a Pomodoro timer, a calendar with some daily entry cards, as well as some to-do list, which is actually one whole linked database. So looking at each of these elements in turn, the Pomodoro timer here is actually a third-party widget which was designed to be embedded in Notion. So all you've got to do really is go to their page, copy the link that they've got, and then turn it into an embedded widget, which I'll put in the description below. It's actually very intuitive for a timer, so as you can see, you've got the Pomodoro timer here with 25 minutes, and if you click start, it will start timing down, and then once you run down, it will give off a little sound, and then you can switch to a short break, which is 5 minutes, or a long break, which is 10 minutes. You can click this icon here, go to the back, and you can see that you can customize exactly the duration of any one of those, and some other options as well, including showing your Spotify playlist, and you can choose the theme as well. I personally quite like this Studio Ghibli theme. To be absolutely honest with you, I actually don't use this Pomodoro timer all that much for my work. The main reason being, if I demonstrate it now, if we start the timer and then we go to our pages and we click away, let's say we want to go to our R coding page and you do some stuff here, when you return to your dashboard page, you can see the timer has completely reset. So unless you are going to have this open as a web page all the time or just stay on this page the entire day, I think if you accidentally click away, then it's a bit inconvenient. And I actually do have something else that I use for my Pomodoro timer anyway. So I don't use this all the time. However, for short tasks that I just wanted a quick timer for, it's quite convenient that it's right here on the dashboard page and I don't have to go and set up my other Pomodoro app. So then to the right here, we have my calendar block, which is where I keep my daily planner. This is today's date, this is yesterday, and this is the day before yesterday, and so on and so forth. And on the top here, you can see I have a couple of views. I have the calendar view, which basically shows every card in every day of the month. And you can sort of use this like a mood board and see from the colored tags what my mood has been like. I have a table view, which is just all the days listed. And then of course the daily planner view, which is where I have it on most of the time. Looking at these, you can see that there's a card for every day, and on each one there's a couple properties looking at things like which work day was it, am I on annual leave, am I on a normal day, am I on a long day, am I on nights, what the weather is like, what my mood is like, what my productivity is like, how much of the task that I set out have I actually managed to complete in a progress bar, and a couple of other checkbox things like exercising, journaling, learning, and a couple other activity slots in here as well. When I click into a card of the day, for example, let's look at yesterday's one, you can see all the same properties on the top again, and down here we have the to-do list for the task that's to be done that day. So as you can see, I've got kind of the status of the task, what it is, some tags, the estimated time to get it done, the actual time to get it done, the calculations for how many I completed, and some other tags as well. And we'll go into this later when we talk about my to-do list and how that works. And then down here I just have a couple sections to write down some thoughts of the day and doing some bit of journaling as well. At the moment, Notion doesn't actually have an inbuilt function to automatically generate a card for each day, but you can use third-party apps like Zapier, which is what I use with a free plan, to generate a new card for every day at midnight with the same template and format on here as well. So that's very useful. So next we'll move on to the meaty bit of the dashboard, which is my to-do list. At a glance, it looks like there's quite a lot going on, but as I said earlier, this is all actually one linked database. So to see how this is going to work, I'm actually going to go down here at the bottom. This is kind of my master table to-do list here. And this is an inline database where all the other lists, including the one that we saw in our daily planner for today's task, is actually connected. So you can see that each item in this table is actually a to-do task, and there is various properties assigned to each one, including the status about, you know, have you started it, is it in progress, is it done, the name of the task, obviously, some tags for the type of work it is, so whether it's my clinical work, academic work, personal stuff, or any chores, the priority, which is self-explanatory, the deadline for the task, some other tags such as getting it done, a reminder, is it a meeting, a conference, a course, an idea, etc. And then the estimated time that I need to assign to the task, the actual time that I spent on it. This is an equation basically with the actual divided by the estimated. So if you enter the amount of time here, it will automatically show a progress bar of how much time you spent on it. And then finally here in the column we have linked project, and this is how I'm basically able to link it to my project tracker, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Each of these items on this table can be opened up into their own page. So again, you see the same properties on the top, and it means that if, say, this was a meeting, you want to take some quick meeting notes about what you talked about on that day, then you can type it all in here, and then when you want to look back, then it's all available as well if you want to check back on it. On this master table, I also have a variety of tabs on the top here, which is how I apply different sorts and filters based on what I need. So for example, on this by schedule one, I've got sort by deadline, so the time when this task is due, the priority, whether it's routine, low, urgent, critical, and the type of work as well. I also apply a filter to all my to-do list to say where to only show basically the task where it is not complete. This means that any task, when I take it off, it will disappear off the list. And then of course we have other tabs such as, for example, my academic tab, where I have an extra filter to only show academic tasks as well. So you can see this is all the relevant ones. So that's the master table list. If we move back up to here, all of these columns and these lists are essentially just a linked database version of the master table. So therefore it is all containing the same content, and if you make changes to one, it will make changes to the other as well. I find that having the items separated into these lists just helps to sort of break down the task a little bit more and makes it more minimalistic, more clean looking, and less daunting than a massive giant table with lots and lots of rows. So I like to have this little section called goals on the side, which has got some long-term things that I'm trying to aim at, like learning how to code in R, making a new gym playlist, building a surgical database, doing some reading of some academic papers. And then in the middle, I've got the get it done column. And this is usually tasks where I need to do something about it in order to check it off. It's quite self-explanatory and simple. And then on the right here, I've got the reminders, which is basically things that I don't actively need to do anything about, but it's a date that's coming up, for example, my midpoint ARCP, or a meeting, or a course, or if it's something that's pending other people's approval and other people to do something about it. Each of this lists will have their own sorting system and filters as well. So again, tasks that are complete will not show up back here. And usually I will sort them by priority or the date that needs to be done. And for reminders, it might be that, you know, meetings with people are more important and on the top of my list compared to something that's going to come up in a couple months' time. I've also created views for each of these to show, for example, tasks that I need to get it done today, this week or this month, and similarly for reminders as well. Although to be absolutely honest, I usually just leave it on the normal view and I'm quite happy with that. Just to show you an example of how this is all truly a linked database. So let's say if I create a new task and get it done. So let's say I want to do my laundry today. We can add an icon to make it pretty. Don't know what icons there are. Let's do that one. So the priority is routine, and then we'll set the deadline to today because we want to do it today. There's no linked project in this case because it's just a chore, and we'll get it tagged down in chores and want to get it done. And let's say it's going to take us half an hour. Okay, so now that I've done that, you can see that the laundry item is in the get it done section of the whole thing. It's not in reminders and it's not in goals because it's not where it's tagged. Down here, we should also be able to see it in the chores tab. There we go, laundry. And if we go into today's card, as you can see, laundry has appeared here as well. So let's say now I've done my laundry and I want to check it off my list. So I've spent half an hour on it. This progress bar has now come up as green and we can change the status to done. And you can see that it remains on our daily calendar planner because I want to be able to see the things that I've achieved today, and you can see that the completion percentage has now gone up to 66 because 2 out of 3 tasks are done. On the other hand, coming back down here, you can see that it is now no longer on our get it done part because this is set to filter out any task that is complete, and similarly it's disappeared off our master table down at the bottom here as well. What I also love about this dashboard layout is that it's super easy to access this on my phone using the Notion app. So when I'm on the go, I can still quickly add some tasks on, I can jot some thoughts down on the go and sort of write down what I'm doing for the day. So next we're going to move on to my project tracker Kanban board. For those of you who've stuck around the channel long enough, you might remember me talking about this in a previous video about how I organize my sort of medical CV stuff and academic achievements. So it's still running, I'm still using it. I've made a few upgrades to it, again using the linked databases, which we're going to go into now. So for those of you who've not seen that video, perhaps this is my project tracker. This is basically a way for me to plan out my career, plan out what sort of projects I'm involved in at the moment, to be able to see them all in a glance and know what sort of stage they're at. So the general gist is that this is basically just another inline database, but it's permanently set to board view as a default. Under each of these headings, as you can see, are things like research, education, audits, and QIP. So pretty much headings that you would find on a CV and what you would need to do as a medical doctor to further your career and build your CV. The general gist of this at the moment is that you can add a new card for every project. So let's just call this project 1, and let's say the priority is really urgent, we really want to get it done. The next deadline is actually next week, and at the moment, let's say we're worried about writing up the manuscript or something like that. And then in each of these cards, I've got it set up. So again, you can see the kind of similar properties of the card, and you can add some other things like who's your supervisor, is the project incomplete, what's going on with it. And then down here I've made a template basically for each of these to link it to our to-do list, again back in the dashboard. So the way this works is, to explain how it works, I need to go back to our master table. So this linked project column is just a text-based column, but what you can do, for example, is say, let's say this particular task, we want to link it to our project 1. So now that we've created a card in our project tracker, what you can do is type @ and you can say project 1, there it is. And now this is linked to project 1. So if we then go back to our project tracker, what we do need to do is set this up in filter, and if we say in the linked project bit of it, we want it to say project 1, you can now see that the same task is now linked under here, and this is a really good way I found for me to keep track of everything that I've done for a single project so far, how much time I've spent in it, etc, etc. So just an example of a completed or one that I'm actually using. This is a PG Cert in data science that I'm doing, and as you can see down here, this has got 18 backlinks to 18 different tasks that I've done in the past, and you can see exactly what I've done for it and what day that I've done it, how much time I've actually spent in it, so far around 12 hours. So it's a really good way, I think, to sort of keep track of everything, and it's quite satisfying to look at when you've completed something as well. Another way to use this space is, for example, if I wanted to see some information about the card outside of just the title and some properties, I can just type basically some text in the body of the card and it will show up with a snippet like this. So for example, these are the courses that I want to attend or is aiming to attend during my course electrical training. So in here, I basically just typed up crisp, training trainers, blah, blah, blah. And when I close it, you can see that the text is up here as well. So that's useful if you want to just see basically a snippet of what you've got going on. And again, this is all sorted so that any project that is complete is not going to show up on this board, but of course you can easily check on them as well by again going into filter. And let's say the status at the moment is set of any task, any project that is not complete, obviously, but we can see the completed projects by literally just changing that. And this is all the stuff that we've completed in the past, and you can sort of pat yourself on the back and say good job and reflect on the year and say how much you've done in the past. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the information sorting system that I use, which is affectionately called the sorting hat. Again, I've talked about this before in my previous videos, so if you've been around with that, you can basically skip this bit because not very much has changed. Again, for those of you who've not seen that video before, this is basically another Kanban board style database, but except instead of the categories is sort of a progressive pathway. The idea of making this is because I found that sometimes when I learn a new fact or I attend a course or a webinar, I want to take some notes, but at the time I might not know exactly where those notes fit into, or they might be really ugly notes because I don't have time to make it nice whilst the speaker is speaking a million miles an hour. So what I do is I put it into this dumping ground. You basically create a new card, you can type whatever you want on it, and then basically you can put it in the raw and sorted column. Then when I have time to clean up a bit better, maybe look up a bit more information, add some nice subheadings and colours and things, you can move it into the cleaned column like so, and then you can decide where you want to put it in the transfer in progress, and then finally the completed column. Inside each of these cards, there is again a couple of properties, including what type of note it is, as well as where I'm going to put it. So lately, one of the things that this is really useful for, I found, is that this year I am rotating to a job that is quite far away from where I live. It's about an hour commute by car, and I've taken up listening to some educational podcasts whilst I'm commuting every day. So in the morning, after I drive there, having listened to this podcast for an hour, I would get out my phone, I would quickly type up a couple of key messages and notes that I want to take home, or that I want to look further into, or a paper that I want to read, and I'll just dump it onto here. And then later, at some point when I'm off or when I have some time to then look back on it, I can take those notes and put that in my surgical knowledge database, or I can pick up on the paper that I wanted to read and jot some notes down as well and complete it that way. So that's actually been really useful. This sorting system is perfect for someone like me who's usually really pedantic about how my notes look and things, because then I don't have to worry about the notes looking shoddy. I know this is a temporary solution, and it means I don't have to think about it when I actually want to write something down. And this leads us nicely to the last section of this video that I want to show you as part of my Notion workspace, and that is a knowledge database. Now that I've passed the MRCS surgery exams, I don't actually have to sit an exam for quite a while until I finish my training. So now this is more about keeping up my own personal clinical knowledge for my practice, as well as learning academic knowledge for writing papers and such, or reading academic papers to keep up to date with the evidence. And there's really nothing superbly fancy about any of these databases. I'm going to show you a few examples, but I would say that keeping items like this in a database is much better rather than just freehand notes, which is what I used to do. And I think it's much more useful from an organizational point of view, as well as linking to other items' point of view. It is also much easier to search for a database item like this using just the search function in Notion rather than using Command P to search the entire Notion base, because one problem that I've encountered is that when I used to take notes just willy-nilly, so let me show you some of my MRCS notes, for example. Give me 2 seconds. So let's say this is how I sort of did my notes when I was studying for the MRCS. I would have lots of toggles like this. It looks fine, right? Like if you look at it, you know, it's reasonably organized. I've got headings, I've got a table of contents, and then I have these toggles that open up to the answers or, you know, for whatever category. The problem is that I found when I want to search for something on this, when I press Command P and I search for whatever, Notion doesn't always come up with the answer. One of the problems I've noticed is particularly if you've got lots of information under toggles, that doesn't really come up in the Notion search function. So it does become sometimes difficult to find certain things or certain points if you don't know exactly where they are, whereas I found databases much better for this. And so as an example of how my searchable database is built, again, I have a master knowledge database containing absolutely every topic that I want to know about. This is all still a work in progress because I'm going to build it over the next 6-7 years, basically, is the plan. And then for each of them, you can see there is a name of the topic, the progress. So most of these are going to be either not started. MRCS transfer means I've transferred some of the notes that I've taken while studying for MRCS into this, or if I'm in the progress of reading up on it, or if it's complete. These two revision stations next review day I'm absolutely not using at the moment, but if I ever wanted to study for it for an exam or whatever for some reason, then it's there and ready. And then I've got some tags about the topic and things like that. And the other good thing about using searchable database, you can then filter and sort it very, very easily. So for example, I've got the same linked database for different surgical specialties such as colorectal, HPB, upper GI, vascular, etc., etc. And then under each of these, using the topic tags, I can then further sort them into the order I want, or look for things I want, which again is much better than just typing freehand notes of toggles or, you know, columns or what have you on different pages. In each of these topics, so for example, let's open my carotid disease one, put it on center peak, put it in the middle. So you can see that I've got some subheadings here which you would normally use for most conditions and it's applicable, such as etiology, classification, clinical features, investigations, management and complications. And then down here I have journal review as well. So as part of being a doctor, you've got to keep up to date with the evidence. So if I read a paper that is relevant, or if I know of some landmark trials and papers that is relevant to the topic, I'll put them down in here and write a short summary. And all of these are then linked to my other database for all the academic papers that I read, which we'll come on to shortly. So, and then in terms of if I was making a new topic, for example, once again, all those headings are made into a pre-made template. So it's very easy for me to just click that. And then if we give it a moment, it will load up with all of those headings. So it's nice and easy. And this makes it easy for me to insert new information as well, because then I can just drag, copy and paste stuff into the relevant heading. So another example database I want to show you is what I call Journal Club, which is where I keep the a repository of papers that I've read or is planning to read from an academic point of view and to supplement my clinical practice. So as you can see here, again, it's not very particularly groundbreaking. It's just another table database with a list of the paper, whether I've read it or not, author, time that is published, specialty, type of study, what sort of topic or disease is it on, and then a little summary about what I took away from the paper or its conclusions. And this means that, you know, if somebody, you know, in the operating room says to me, oh, do you remember the Casper trial? And then, you know, that's the summary of what the paper found. So it's very readily available there for me. And once again, on the top here, I just have a couple of tabs sorting by different things, usually just by specialty and by relevance of the different trials, so that you can search very quickly. And finally, as a third example of a database that I'm using, This is the page I've created for the PG Cert in Data Science that I mentioned I'm undertaking at the moment. So this is going to be a part-time course that lasts throughout the year with sort of weekly lessons and notes that I need to look into. So this has actually got some links to databases in it, which I'm still sort of tweaking and working out at the moment. But the way it works, I've got this linked database for my to-do list, once again, which is filtered to only show tasks that is relevant to the PG Cert Data Science project. So you can see the only thing I've got now is checking that the funding invoice has been sorted. And then we have the course progress, which is looking at the overall course throughout the year, which will have different blocks and things. And then down here, I have the lessons and notes. So far we've done 2 weeks, and I have finished both the notes on these ones. You can see the progress bar is completely 100% done. And then here I have a relations column, which basically allows me to link this database to this database up here. And it means that I can then use things like roll up, which is a function in Notion, to then count how many lessons there are exactly. So there is 10 weeks, 10 lessons. And it also allows me to automatically use roll up to calculate things like the progress. So whenever I mark one of these as complete, it will reflect on this progress bar up here. So for example, if I do that and change this to 100%, you can see that this bar has now moved up. So yeah, that's what I'm using to track my course and learning so far on this. It's working for me, but I'm sure that I'll be making some changes to this as well in the coming weeks. And that concludes my Notion tour in 2022. Hopefully I've demonstrated how versatile Notion can be in designing a workspace that suits your needs, and maybe this has given you a few ideas to adapt into your own workspace. I'm sure that I will continue to tweak the system as time goes on, either for my evolving needs or as Notion gets more features. If you're interested in knowing exactly how these were built, please do leave a like and comment below letting me know, and if enough people are interested, I will show some step-to-step guides and videos in the future showing how exactly I built up my dashboard. Don't forget to subscribe for more future content. That's it for now, and I'll see you next time. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Kitty and I'm an academic surgical trainee in the UK. Recently I released a video about my Notion tour, and this year showing how I use my Notion dashboard, project checker and various things to organise my life and to organise a knowledge database. As promised, here is a video showing a step-to-step guide to how I set up my Notion dashboard, which includes a Pomodoro timer, a connected to-do list, as well as a daily calendar. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. And that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this useful and you're thinking that you might incorporate this into your own Notion workspace, please do leave a like below and comment to let me know. If you have any other ideas about how I can improve my workspace as well, please feel free to comment and let me know. Always looking to improve things in my own Notion workspace. Don't forget to subscribe as well for any future content, but that's it for now and I'll see you next time.